The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRCMedia, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
This week on FRCmedia News, we recap the results and get reaction to this week's Fall River municipal election. And seasonal illnesses will soon be upon us. How can we prepare? All this and more coming up. It's Thursday, September 21st, 2023. This is FRCmedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. Turnout was light this week as city voters went to the polls to take part in Fall River's municipal preliminary election. 12.6% of voters cast ballots to pare down the candidates in the races for mayor and city council. In the race for mayor, incumbent Mayor Paul Coogan earned 4,285 votes to finish on top. He'll face former mayor and Bristol County District Attorney Sam Sutter, who finished second with 2,516 votes. Challenger Michael Vandal finished out of the running in third with 326 votes. After getting approximately 60% of the vote, the mayor credited his success on his focus on continuing to work in the best interests of the residents of Fall River.
The focus of today in Fall River was winning an election against a very, very strong opponent, a former district attorney, a former mayor, and I can't tell you enough how great this victory feels, how much work went into it, and it's not because of Paul Coogan, it's because of the team in this room and the people in this city that know and respect hard work, and that's what's going to be. I thought we were getting invaded, I'm sorry guys. The hard work that goes into this race and what we did today in the city was nothing short of spectacular. We worked every precinct, we did the best we could, and I can't thank you all enough. I owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude, and I really appreciate what's going on in the city. So give yourselves a hand. I appreciate it. I'm going to tease you a little bit. Tomorrow we're getting two big endorsements. So we're going to have the Democratic endorsements, we're going to have the Republican endorsements, we're going to have the Congressman endorsements, and we're going to go straight to work tomorrow to keep the focus on winning the election in November. I love this job, and I take it very, very seriously. I try to go to work every single day to make Fall River a better place to live. And that's the whole secret to this job. It's not a deal, it's not who knows what's going where. It's how do we make the city a better place to live and work together. I want to congratulate the councilors tonight on the hard-fought race they had also. We'll see who ends up in November in the top 9. But with that being said, the only thing I want to make sure you leave tonight from Dunny's, I want to thank obviously the Donovan family for hosting us. I really appreciate this. Leave tonight, know the work is beginning tomorrow. And second of all, I can't do it without you. I appreciate every single one of you and the help you've given me through the years. We're going to wrap this up in November simply because of your efforts and the work you put in, all of you, to making this city a better place to live. Thank you all very, very much.
In thanking his supporters after garnering 35% of the vote, Mr. Sutter says he's looking forward to a better turnout in November and criticized Mayor Coogan for lapses in leadership.
A lot of people who were undecided or not paying attention didn't vote. But on November 7th, they are going to vote. And I'm telling you right now, I am convinced because it's right for Fall River that we will win a majority of the entire vote on November the 7th. There it is. Now, he doesn't want to debate me, but I don't see how he can duck it. He's been ducking it from the moment I announced. I said every opportunity. I'm ready to start the debates now. And he's got to debate because we know what Fall River's issues are. He doesn't want to talk about crime, which is soaring, especially shootings. He doesn't want to talk about taxes, which are soaring. He doesn't want to talk about the lack of new business. Why are we here? Do you know why we're here at Origin? Because this is the only new business to come into the downtown since Paul Coogan's become mayor. That's unacceptable. So he doesn't want to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about the lack of new business in our other downtown, the Flint. He doesn't want to talk about the lack of new business on the waterfront. That's unbelievable to me. That beautiful waterfront with no new business in the last 4 years. So, and he doesn't want to talk about what goes along with the lack of new business. And you know what that is? That's taxes soaring. Because when you don't bring in new business and you've got to pay for Durfee and you've got to pay for Diamond, taxes keep going up. If we don't bring in new business, we're going to drive people out of Fall River that want to stay but can't afford the taxes. So these are big time issues that need to be debated. Crime, lack of new business, taxes, homelessness, the high rents, and I've got answers. He doesn't. So let's have debates, right?
During our election night coverage, former Mayor John Mitchell said the two mayoral candidates are keenly aware that a lot can happen between now and November, and both will remain vigilant in securing votes.
I just want to say one thing we overlooked talking about people who want to run, competitiveness. And I know both Sam Sutter and Paul Coogan played sports with Paul Coogan. They both have the most pleasant demeanor. They're sociable, affable gentlemen, but they're both very competitive. Paul didn't show a lot of it tonight, but it's there. That's what struck me about Sam Sutter.
Yeah.
He's just
Definitely came
very,
through.
very
Yeah.
competitive.
Definitely came through.
I mean, in
And that's a
defense of
big part of particularly running for these one-on-one offices. It's just your name out there, and you've got to be extremely competitive.
Prior to the election, Mayor Coogan had received the endorsement of Congressman Jake Auchincloss and former Governor and Lieutenant Governor Charlie Baker and Karen Polito. Since Tuesday, the mayor has received the backing of current Governor and Lieutenant Governor Maura Healey and Kim Driscoll. But do endorsements matter? Former Mayor Mitchell says it depends.
I think they're helpful from unions or organized groups in the sense if they actually put something together for you, whether it's fundraising or they get people out to work for you. Individual endorsements, who's that popular? If Tom Brady endorses you, it might mean something, but the minute you get to anyone controversial, and every politician is now. Charlie Baker was very popular, but,
yeah.
he didn't run for the last term, and there was a reason, because I don't think he was getting through a Republican primary,
Yeah.
or it would have been so close. So I've never felt those, they don't hurt, and I think for an incumbent they add something that, when the former governor and lieutenant governor that you worked with endorse you, it lends you credence and some credibility.
Only one candidate of the 19 on the ballot for City Council will not move forward on the November election. Here's a look at the results. The race was topped by 4 incumbents: Linda Pereira with 3,538 votes, Brad Kilby with 3,157, Joe Camara with 341, and Sean Kadim with 3,027 votes. In 5th and 6th place are 2 candidates looking to return to the council: Cliff Ponte with 2,933 votes and current school committee member Paul Hart with 2,894. Incumbents Andrew Raposo and Michelle Dion were 7th and 8th, with Raposo earning 2,557 votes and Ms. Dion 2,431. Newcomer Alexander Silva finished 9th with 2,110 votes, followed in 10th by challenger Gabriel Boomer Amaral with 2,006. The 11th through 19th places looks like this. Challenger Jordan James Sylvia at number 11 with 1,960 votes, followed by 2 sitting councilors at 12 and 13. Laura Washington with 1,942 votes and Pam LaLiberty with 1,843. Challenger Ricky Tith was 14th with 1,752 votes, followed by Joshua Texera at 15th with 1,635. The last three candidates to advance to the November election are Bob Pearson with 1,528 votes, Gloria Sadler with 1,464, and Paulo Amaral with 1,310 votes. Newcomer Joseph Salvador finished out of the running with 892 votes. The council preliminary was the first since 2015. Former Mayor Mitchell says the tally is a good barometer of what lies ahead for the candidates.
As a candidate, it's very helpful because it's a good poll.
Right.
So, you can look at where your strengths are, but also go to, that's what I always used it for, is, you'd pick out those precincts you weren't as strong and, try to find people there, go door to door, particularly with the council, with the multiple votes. You're not asking for someone not to vote for the local or their friend who's the candidate,
Right.
But you go and present yourself. So it is helpful, I think, for to have a primary. The two incumbents who are out a bit, they'll be able to determine, where they were weak and also find out what did cause it, because you talk to people and they'll give you an idea.
All the successful candidates from Tuesday will join 10 candidates seeking election to the school committee on November 7th. Stay with FRC Media as we will be coordinating candidates' forums and debates, as well as granting access by the candidates to speak directly to you, the voters of Fall River. We'll have more information very soon. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education this week released district results for the spring 2023 Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, or MCAS test. The results showed a slight decline for the Fall River Public Schools. 22% of students taking the English Language Arts test either exceeded or met expectations, the same as 2022. Fewer students partially met expectations compared to a year ago, 41% to 45%, while more students did not meet expectations this year than last, 37% versus 33% in 2022. Those exceeding or meeting expectations on the math test were slightly lower than last year, 19% versus 20%. Those partially meeting expectations in math were also down from a year ago, 44% to 47%, and those not meeting expectations rose to 37% this year compared to 33% in 2022. 18% of those taking the science, technology, and engineering test either exceeded or met expectations, the same as last year. 45% partially met expectations versus 44% in 2022, while 37% did not meet expectations. That's the same as a year ago. The district did make significant progress in curbing chronic absenteeism, which is defined as students missing 10% or more of their days in school. In the K-8 schools, 31.1% of students were chronically absent, compared to 43.5% in 2022. At Durfee High School, 48.6% of the students were chronically absent, compared to 58.4% last year. Fall begins this week, and as the weather turns colder, it's time to prepare for any upcoming seasonal illnesses, including COVID and the flu. Dr. Eric Vaught, Chief Medical Officer at the Health First Family Care Center in Fall River, says now that we've come to a point where COVID is more preventable with updated vaccine boosters, tweaks to previous vaccines have been the focus.
Researchers are always looking for what are the newest variants that are causing the most disease. And in this case, over the last year, we've studied some of the Omicron variants, and they've added that to the updated booster. And so now, this week, next week, many of the clinics and pharmacies around the city will start to have the updated booster. And I encourage all of those individuals within the city to get the COVID booster now that it's available. The idea was always to prevent severe disease. And so as you just mentioned, some people will get the booster and may still get COVID, the disease. The goal is to reduce the number of people that are hospitalized and those that ultimately die from the disease. And so the COVID vaccine has been shown to reduce those hospitalizations when it's been tested.
Those 6 months of age and older are eligible to receive the COVID booster. Dr. Vaught says the holiday season is the prime time to be on the lookout for a spike in COVID cases.
What we now look at is what is the hospitalization rate related to COVID, and do we see an increase in the number of beds that are being used in our local area. The other thing is we actually test the wastewater, and we're looking for a spike in COVID as a predictive factor for an outbreak of COVID in a community. And so those things are highly monitored by the city and the state to make sure that we stay safe.
There's also a new vaccine this year for the seasonal flu. And like COVID, those 6 months of age and older can safely receive the updated vaccine.
Year to year, the flu vaccine is not the same vaccine, and that's why people always ask, well, why do I have to get it every single year? It's because we're going out, the researchers are looking at what are the most common variants and putting those, usually 4 variants, in the flu vaccine. And one of the beauties of the way this is done is winter in the southern hemisphere of the world predicts kind of our winter season here. And so the flu vaccine was rolled out in the southern hemisphere. They saw a reduction in hospitalizations due to flu based off of the flu vaccine that we have available to us. And so we predict that it will be very effective this winter season.
Dr. Vaught says patients can safely receive both the COVID and flu vaccine boosters during the same appointment. There's also another vaccine available this year, one to treat RSV.
Respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, has been around for a very long time. We often associated it with preemie babies and very young children, and often every winter season we get very concerned about the child that would come in not doing well from a cough and respiratory distress. Ultimately, what we saw last year was a spike in the number of cases, and it was overwhelming. If you remember on news articles, and they would show pictures of ERs overrun in our local area and across the country with kids that had RSV. And so what they've gone back and done is they've taken the RSV and they've been able to develop a vaccine that's now available to very young children, and then those over the age of 60. And what I would say is to talk to your local doctor about whether or not you're eligible and would be a good candidate for the RSV vaccine to prevent hospitalization and serious complications.
Even though we are further removed from severe COVID infections, Dr. Vaught still recommends we stay vigilant to minimize getting infected with any seasonal illness.
Any chance I get, I always am honing in on hand washing, having hand sanitizer readily available. So I encourage everyone to continue to do that. That's a practice we should never really give up. As far as the masking, I do, if you're someone who has some sort of underlying respiratory disease, or if you feel like you're starting to have the first onsets of a cough or some sort of sore throat, that you might want to consider putting a mask on and protecting those around you, especially if you're going to be in a congregate setting, whether it be with family or coworkers or wherever. And then finally is that each one of us taking ownership of if we have a fever, if we have respiratory symptoms, to avoid being around other people, using other ways to connect with individuals that we don't have to be face to face with them, I think is just now part of the life we live.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Pharmacy technician, Walgreens, located at 369 Plymouth Avenue, is looking for a full-time pharmacy technician to locate, dispense, pack, and label a prescribed medication for a patient. Job number 196-46648. Hairstylist, Supercuts, located at 450 William S. Canning Boulevard, is seeking a full-time hairstylist to shampoo, blow dry, cut, color, and style the customer's hair. Job number 196-47169. Shipper Loader, Gold Medal Bakery, located at 1397 Bay Street, is looking for a full-time shipper loader, responsible for selecting and moving trade product from staging area and loading into trailers. Job number 196-47123. Store Associate, CVS Health, located at 4171 North Main Street, is looking for a full-time store associate. For more information, call 508-677-3555. South Coast Health System, located at 363 Highland Avenue, has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. Registered nurse, job number 196-42045. Medical Assistant, job number 196-42047. For more information about these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. More people in Fall River in August were employed than the month prior. The unemployment rate in Fall River for August sits at 4.2%, down 0.2% from 4.4% in July. The rate in August last year, in 2022, was 5.8%. The suburbs of Fall River and other eastern Massachusetts gateway cities saw minor fluctuations in their unemployment rate. The state's jobless rate in August sits at 2.6%. Chapter 207 of the Vietnam Veterans of America held a ceremony last Friday, remembering those who were prisoners of war or who are still missing in action. The ceremony included the reading of a proclamation from President Joe Biden and the reading of the names of Vietnam veterans from Massachusetts still unaccounted for.
On this day of heartache and resolve, let us offer strength to the families still waiting for the return of their loved ones. Let us extend our gratitude to Americans and international partners working tirelessly to bring home our missing service members from their prior conflicts. And let us remember that freedom is never free, that democracy always requires champions, and that we owe an eternal debt to the heroes of our armed forces.
We do not fire a military salute or sound taps, as our brothers are still unaccounted for. They will receive their honors when they return home. Today, nearly 82,000 servicemen remain unaccounted for, from the conflicts dating back to the World War II, and more than 72,000 of those lost during World War II, 8,000 from the Korean War, and 1,579 remain unaccounted from the Vietnam War. I recently also heard a quote that said, "Our country without soldiers is like God without his angels." It's important that every year we remember those who are still missing, and it's important for us to recognize today those here in Massachusetts who are still missing.
The city of Fall River also held a ceremony remembering those missing from all wars. We will wrap up this edition of FRC Media News after this.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Caps. Today we have Boo. Boo is a 5-month-old domestic short-haired male. He is very sweet. He loves attention. He loves to play. Boo would do well in any home. He would do good with small children, older children, single family. He would do good with anybody. Very playful. He would do well with another cat or as by himself. Boo would fit in any home, I would say. Kids any age. He loves to play, loves to jump around, loves to be held, loves attention of all kinds. If you'd like to meet Boo, come on down to 300 Linwood Street. Boo would love to meet you.
Here I have Kismet. She is a pit bull terrier. She is about 3 to 4 years old is what we think she is. She came to us in a really sad situation where she came in really skinny. She's a sad little girl, but as you can see, she's bounced back wonderfully. She is an excited, wonderful girl. With Kismet, our pity rules do apply. So we would prefer someone to own their own home. We'd prefer no kids for Miss Kismet. We want somebody who's got plenty of room for her to run around, but I think she'll also be a little couch potato with you. Because she came from such a rough situation, she really, really starves for attention. Like, she really loves human attention, so much so that she might bark a bit when she is alone. But she is a wonderful girl, just looking for a home, waiting her time. If you're interested, please come down and meet this wonderful girl. We'd definitely love to have you and love for her to find her forever home.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. We invite you to visit our website, frmedia.org, for all the latest news and local community information. FRC Media News airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next Thursday.